Divorce is, without a doubt, one of the most stressful things anyone can go through. And the money side of it? That can be completely overwhelming. But what if we could take all that anxiety and actually turn it into a clear, strategic plan for recovery? Okay, let's dive into the numbers and build a framework to not just survive, but to truly rebuild your financial future.
First up, a number. -41%. Let's just let that sink in for a moment.
Okay, now here's another one, -77%.
And finally, 1 in 5. Now, these aren't just random numbers I'm throwing at you. They represent a pretty harsh reality for a lot of people. So what in the world do they actually mean?
Well, these numbers are the financial shockwave of divorce. That first number, that -41%, that's the average drop in household income for women. The 77% is the average cut to their total wealth. And that 1 in 5, that's how many women find themselves falling into poverty after a divorce. It's a really stark picture, for sure, but understanding it is the absolute first step to changing it. Now, what's really fascinating here is the difference this chart shows. I mean, while both people definitely take a financial hit, the impact is way, way bigger for women. This is often because of things like the gender pay gap or taking time off from a career for childcare. You can see it right there, an average income drop of 41% for women compared to 17% for men. When you see it laid out like this, that gap is just impossible to ignore.
And believe me, the shockwave doesn't just stop at your paycheck. We're talking about your credit score potentially dropping 50 points or more, about a third of women with kids losing the family home, and a major, major setback to those long-term retirement plans. So the point is, and this is crucial, you have to prepare. Which brings us right here to our first action-oriented section, preparing for impact. Look, this isn't about bracing for the worst. It's all about grabbing the reins on the things you can control. And that gives you an incredible amount of power in a situation that can feel totally powerless. Okay, so we can basically boil down what feels like a mountain of work into 4 clear, manageable steps. First, gather your documents. That's your tax returns, pay stubs, insurance policies, the whole shebang. Second, know your numbers. You've got to list every single asset you own and every single debt you owe. Third, separate your finances. Open your own bank account, freeze joint credit cards. And fourth, and this one's huge, build your team. You cannot do this alone. And speaking of that team, yeah, lawyers are essential, but a certified divorce financial analyst or a CDFA, think of them as your financial secret weapon. They're the ones who help you really understand the long-term impact of different settlement options. They help you look past the legal battle and focus on your future financial stability.
Okay, so once the papers are signed and the divorce is final, that's when the real work of rebuilding begins. Let's move into navigating the aftermath. This is your practical, step-by-step game plan for those first few critical years.
Wow, this right here, this is what makes it real. Let's look at Sarah's story. Before her divorce, things were pretty comfortable, right? Good household income, a solid emergency fund. Then, boom. After, her income is literally cut in half. Her retirement gets split right down the middle. Her emergency fund? Gone. And to top it all off, her housing costs actually went up. This isn't some crazy exaggeration. This is a super common scenario that just shows how fast your entire financial world can get turned upside down.
So how in the world do you recover from a situation like Sarah's? Well, you can't manage what you don't measure. You need a new financial dashboard. Think of it like the dashboard in your car, but for your money. A simple set of key numbers you track to see how you're doing month after month.
The number one most important metric on that dashboard is your net worth. It's super simple. It's everything you own minus everything you owe. Forget just looking at your income. This is the ultimate scorecard of your financial health. Your goal, plain and simple, is to make this number go up consistently over time.
So what's the engine that drives your net worth up? It's your savings rate. It's just the percentage of your income you're putting away for the future. You might have to start small, and that's totally okay. But aiming for a consistent savings rate of at least 15%, that is how you rebuild your emergency fund and get your retirement back on track. All right, once you've got your footing and your short-term recovery plan is humming along, it's time to start thinking about the long game. Let's talk about securing your future, which really means learning how to avoid the most common and most expensive mistakes. And this brings us to maybe the most emotionally loaded question in a divorce. Should you fight tooth and nail to keep the house? For so many people, it represents stability, it's where the memories are. But is that an emotional decision, or is it a smart financial one? The trap, and it's a big one, is becoming house rich and cash poor. The mortgage, the taxes, the insurance, and then a water heater breaks. All of it can absolutely cripple your new budget. So the strategic fix? It's to analyze the true cost of owning that home. A lot of the time, selling it and downsizing is the move that actually frees up your cash and gives you the real stability you need.
Here's another one, another critical question. You know, when money gets super tight, it is so tempting to just hit pause on your retirement contributions. You tell yourself it's just temporary. But what's the real damage of doing that, even for just a little while?
Okay, the trap here is, and I'm not exaggerating, it's catastrophic. When you stop contributing, you lose the magical power of compound growth. And time is the one thing you can never, ever get back. So the fix isn't to feel like you have to put in a huge amount. The fix is to contribute something. Even $100 a month keeps that compounding engine running. Consistency, in this case, is so much more powerful than the amount.
So if you take away just one thing, one simple formula from all of this, let it be this: strategic planning before and during the divorce, plus ongoing tracking of your key numbers after. That is what builds true, lasting financial resilience.
Look, those numbers we started with, they're a snapshot. They are not a life sentence. Your financial story is not over. In a lot of ways, it's just beginning. The only question now is, armed with what you know, what are you going to write in the next chapter?